Hello, it's my pleasure to welcome Professor De Koning-Tijssen to our Women in Movement Disorders Leadership Spotlight Series. It's a pleasure to have us with you today.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here and to take part in this conversation.
So I think a lot of people know who you are, but some of the younger folk might not. So I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to introduce you. As many of you know, Professor Marina De Koning-Tijssen is a professor in neurology and the head of the Expertise Center Movement Disorders Groningen in the Netherlands. Her career has focused on hyperkinetic movement disorders, jerky movements such as myoclonus, tics, dystonia, chorea. She's devoted to patient care and thus has founded Neurology Net, which is a national collaboration network involving neurologists and physiotherapists with the objective of improving dystonia treatment. She has also greatly contributed to advancing the field of hyperkinetic movement disorders, thanks to her research in phenotyping, psychiatric and cognitive comorbidity, genetics, neurophysiology, and imaging. She has published more than 362 articles last time I checked. I'm sure there's a new one since then. Has an H index of 52, and obviously has made great contributions to the field. She has also held numerous leadership positions in both local and international societies related to dystonia, rare diseases, and more recently, functional movement disorders. And she's currently the secretary-elect of the MDS. It is such a pleasure to have you with us and to learn from you tonight, or today, or whenever people are listening to this post. So we wanted to maybe briefly hear about the highlights of your career, what you think is most important.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for this very kind introduction. Well, where shall I start? I think one of the highlights was that I did my medical school. I was allowed to come there, and then at the end of medical school, I went to Baltimore to Professor David C. He's very famous for eye movements, and that was fantastic. I learned a lot from him. And when I came back, that was the moment I decided to become a neurologist. And I started my training in Leiden University, and there I got my PhD as well. And that was on hyperplexia. And in the same period, I got married and I had my first child, which was also a very important part of my life. And after that, in the last year of my training, I went to Queen Square and I worked with Peter Brown and Andrew Lees. And that was fantastic. I built a new network there and I learned a lot from them. And when I came back to the Netherlands, I started as a neurologist in Amsterdam for 10 years. And in that period, I received my first big grant. And that was really a major step for my career, as it allowed me to build my own research group. At the same time, I got my twin daughters, so that was quite a challenge at that time. But it all worked out very well. And then after 12 years, I went to Groningen. I became professor in movement disorders, and that was a very good step for me. And there I was able to build the expertise center that you mentioned for rare hyperkinetic movement disorders. And that is also part of a European network. So that was a great achievement. And within the group, that grew rather rapidly. So we are a big group now with movement disorder specialists, with postdocs, with PhD students. And over the years, we were awarded with different grants. We had retraite, what we call, I don't know the English word, but then we go to a small island, Schiermonnikoog, just above Groningen. And that's fantastic. Then we are with the whole group and we learn new things. We develop new plans. And and then next to all this, I developed my leadership outside my hospital. And that was on a national level. I became the first chair of the Movement Disorder Society in the Netherlands. And on the international level, I became part of the COST network. That was my first international step for Dystonia. And then afterwards, it gradually just moved on. I became part of the several parts of the MDS, focus groups and the committees. And then they asked me to become the secretary of the MDS European section. And then afterwards, as the secretary-elect of the international, how do you call that? I'm trying to find a word. The international leadership. So that's what I'm doing now. And in September, I will become the secretary of the MDS, which is an enormous honor, but also great pleasure. So that's more or less my major steps, I think.
Obviously, you have done so much, and at least the words that come out to me are certain mentors along your life, no? Certain people that you've met that obviously made an impact, and collaboration with people, and slowly, you know, having more and more responsibility, but also donating your time, obviously.
Sorry, also?
Donating your time, as you do, to all these societies, and particularly the MDS.
True. But I think it's you donate your time, but it also, you learn a lot from it, and you make a lot of friends along the line, and you have nice collaborations, and that really increases the pleasure at work. So it's sort of like a win-win situation. And on the other hand, I've always also been careful with my family life, that there was enough time, that I was not always away. So I think I balanced that pretty well. And it turned out well. I really enjoyed. I enjoy my work with patients, seeing patients, but also with teaching and research and doing all those things. And also on an international level, and in the leadership, that really sort of enforces each other, right? It gives all a lot of pleasure, and then work gets nicer. And I've always really enjoyed that.
I think that brings us to the next question, which is what tips would you give us to maintain that work-life balance that we talked about?
Well, I think the most important part, at least for me, is try to be yourself, be honest to yourself, what you like to do or what you want, because it's different for everyone. And a very practical thing is try to organize it as good as you can at home. Even if it costs you a lot of money, it really gives you a lot of freedom. Yeah, because it's really, it's really something. I mean, the things that you don't really have to do yourself, it really helps a lot if that's taken away from you, because then also with your children, you can do the things you like to do. And I think that's an important lesson I learned to a lot of my young colleagues. And another thing is try to keep a bit of your autonomy, because I think that's what I also noticed, that usually, especially when you're young and you're busy, you're just trying to do the things you have to do, but try to do it also the way you like to do it, and have room for your own personal development as well, even if it's only 2 hours a day or a week or one afternoon, but not just keep going, but try to make your own choices there, and try to, keep a part of the week that's really the thing you like to do. And I think that helps a lot to give you energy. Also, like what I said, with international collaborations, it costs you time, but it also gives you energy if you do specific things. And that's something I learned. And also, make choices and learn to say no. And I think that's a very tough one, but that's something you have to practice. But I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
I feel like you're talking to me right now. Just learn how to say no. No, learning how to say no is a big one.
Yeah.
And yeah, choosing your path and organizing yourself well, keeping some time for yourself and not have, yeah, freeing the time you can, no, if somebody else can take care of that, and being honest to yourself. That's amazing advice. I now go on to the next question we wanted to ask you, which is, what has been your experience as a woman navigating the path as a leader in the field?
Yes, I think that's a difficult question because I think I've done pretty well all the time, but then sometimes there are struggles, that things are not going so smoothly as you would like them to go. And I find it sometimes difficult to determine what is the cause. Is that then because you're a woman, or are there other things going on? And I must say, and that's another tip I would like to give young women, when I was like 45, I did a course which was leadership for female doctors. And that learned me so much, because then there were certain things were discussed, and then I thought, oh, that's the issue, you know? It was because it is more a female issue than a personal issue. And that didn't change the thing, but it made me aware of it. And that also helped me to realize what was going on. And you cannot always change it. And having said that, I haven't had that many problems over time. But sometimes you just don't know when it doesn't work, if you want promotion or you want to change your task and you want to discuss it, and then it doesn't work out. But then you think, well, that's for all the colleagues. And I think partly that is, but some things can also be because it's not totally balanced out because of gender. And I think it's important to learn to be aware of that. You can't always change it, but then, well, you sort of learn the rules, and then sometimes you can navigate between there. But I must say that overall, I haven't had so much trouble with that. But when I became professor in Groningen, then I got a lot of emails from female neurologists from the Netherlands. And they were all so happy that I became professor, being a female, being a mother of 3 children, that it was all possible. And they were really, but now there are many more female professors in the Netherlands in neurology, but at that time it wasn't. And then I became aware that it's still an issue, you know, it's still not natural, but I think it is improving now over time. But it's, in my opinion, it can go a bit quicker.
And somebody had to cut the way, and obviously you were one of those first female professors, right?
Yeah, and what helped for me, that like I said also for the previous question, it's good to be yourself, right? Just you are a woman, so that's okay. You know, you don't have to act as a man to get a good position. You must be the person you are, and then with your good and your bad sides, as we all have them. And then I think that it's good to be aware of that, it helps a lot for yourself if you can behave just the way you are. Because if you have to adjust and be more like in the male play, to say so, well, that doesn't always fit you. So it's better to do it your own way. And I'm happy to say that worked out for me, and that's nice. And now I have my own group, and I can show my own leadership, which is different from some of I came along. But then, yeah, then now I can do it the way I think it's the best to do, and create room for people, give them space, and create a safe environment so they can develop themselves. And I really enjoy doing that. But like I said, I haven't had that much trouble during my career.
Mhm. Thanks so much for sharing all of that. And what would your suggestions be and advice for those young women pursuing a movement disorders career? What do you think you can tell us?
Well, I would say be as ambitious as you want to be. Just do it. And as I said, do it your own way. Don't try to fit in ways that are currently existent. Just do it your way. As I said, organize it well at home so you have space to do it. And I would say also, like I said, try to find a coach. It can be in the field, but that you can sometimes reflect on and talk to and ask advice, because that sometimes that really helps. I've been a coach also in this LEAP program, and I've had both male and female people I helped around. And then sometimes it's so easy to say, well, try this or try that. Because you have a bit more distance. And I think that is a good suggestion to do that. And for the content, for me, it helped a lot to find my niche and focus on it. Because usually you tend to sort of broaden all the time, but then it's hard because there is so much knowledge these days. So it's good to have, like, I've always focused on mainly on hyperkinetic movement disorders. And sometimes that's a bit awkward because then I don't see that many patients with Parkinson's disease. But then I think I can't do it all, right? I have an excellent colleague who sees patients with Parkinson's disease. So I focus mainly on like jerky movements, on dystonia. And by focusing, it's easier to get grants. It's easier to make your own specific group. And I think that's nice if you find something that's really close to your heart, and then you put a lot of effort in that specific area. I think that helps, and to create a network of people around you. So, and not always people in the leadership, but also, like, last week, we organized an electrophysiology in movement disorder course for the MDS-ES. And then there are 40 young people, and I just tell them, make friends, because then it's easier when you go to the next conference. You can ask things, you can easily help each other. And I think that's the way to go, to have a nice atmosphere, to be friends, and then well, in that way, create your network and also have some contacts with leadership so they can help you and coach you to move along. That's I think those are the best advices I can give.
That sounds great. And also, for at least for me, the take-home message is that sometimes that mentor doesn't have to be somebody in your own hospital, but can actually be somebody that's in a different continent. And I've always found leaders to be very approachable. Actually, I was in the LEAP program as well, and
Okay.
Yeah, and just it's true. A lot of figures like yourself are so welcoming and so happy to teach
Yeah.
younger people trying to figure our way around, right? So it's great advice, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we've come to an end to the time that they've given us, and wanted again to thank you for your time, again for donating your time. And I'm sure this is going to be very helpful for a lot of women and men listening to this broadcast.
Very good. Thank you so much.